Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something that, well, really made waves globally. China's recent massive military parade.
Huge spectacle.
Absolutely. And this wasn't just, pomp and circumstance. It felt like a very carefully put together statement. You had President Xi Jinping right there, front and center.
Hosting quite the guest list, too.
Over 20 foreign heads of state. And that included some big names, right? Russia's Vladimir Putin, North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The visuals alone were pretty striking.
Definitely sent a message just with who was standing next to who.
And the hardware they rolled out, it went way beyond just ceremonial stuff. We saw things that just, boom, hit the headlines instantly.
Like what specifically caught your eye?
Well, the infamous Guam killer missile, for one, that's designed specifically to target key U.S. bases.
Right, the Dongfeng 26D.
Exactly. And then the cutting-edge, loyal wingman stealth drone flying alongside jets. Even chatter about robotic wolves for the battlefield.
Robotic wolves,
Yeah.
Sounds almost sci-fi.
It does. And many watching didn't just see a show. They saw, a very deliberate message, a display of Xi's power, China's growing military muscle, aimed arguably squarely at the U.S. and its allies.
Exactly. And that's really our mission today, isn't it? To get past the flash, the sheer spectacle of it all.
Yeah, beyond the hype.
We want to decode what this display really tells us about where China's military is heading, its strategy, its global ambitions.
Right.
So we've gone through a whole stack of sources, analysis.
Lots of reading.
Lots of reading. And we're aiming to boil it down to 5 key insights for you. Not just bullet points, but the core things you really need to grasp to understand this pretty critical global development.
And that's the value for you listening. We're doing the legwork, cutting through that noise to give you a shortcut, a way to understand not just what China's building, but why it matters and what it might mean for, well, the global balance of power.
Let's get into it then.
Okay, so first big takeaway. This really centers on China's ability to actually develop weapons. It's kind of undeniable, isn't it? They can produce a huge range of stuff and quickly. The scale is just impressive.
It really is, and the speed is remarkable.
Think about it. Michael Roska, he's at Nanyang Technological University, points out that maybe a decade ago, a lot of China's tech was seen as, let's say, rudimentary copies of U.S. gear.
Right. Reverse engineering was a big part of it then.
But this parade, totally different story. It showed off much more innovative, diverse systems, especially drones and missiles.
Yeah.
It's not just about making lots of things. It signals a really sophisticated defense industrial complex.
And that term, defense industrial complex, that's crucial here. It's this huge state-controlled network. Research, development, manufacturing, all working together.
All coordinated.
Exactly. And as Alexander Neal from the Pacific Forum notes, it's China's top-down structure, plus the sheer amount of resources they pour in, that lets them churn out new weapons faster than many other countries.
Faster and in bulk.
Yes, not just speed, but huge quantities, which, on a battlefield, that sheer volume could potentially just overwhelm an opponent. It's this centralized approach that lets them build ships, munitions, all these platforms at a pace others struggle to match.
Okay, so building fast, building a lot sounds formidable. But here's the million-dollar question, maybe. How well can China's military actually use all this new stuff together?
The integration challenge.
Right. It's one thing to have a shiny new missile roll off the line. It's totally different to deploy it effectively with everything else in a real fight. What's the reality there?
And that's where you find, well, significant skepticism. Dr. Roska, for example, makes this point very clearly. The Chinese military is massive, yes, but it's largely untested.
They haven't fought a major war in decades.
Exactly. So the big question he raises is, are they organizationally agile to use them in a way they want to? Having the fancy tech doesn't automatically mean you're ready for prime time, operationally speaking.
It's like having all the best ingredients but not knowing the recipe?
Sort of, yeah. Or maybe knowing the recipe in theory, but never having cooked under pressure. Their mass production is impressive, no doubt, but actually executing complex multi-domain operations with all this new gear, that's still a really big unknown.
A major question mark, then. Okay, let's pivot from production and integration to what they're actually building and why. This parade screamed missiles. A missile-centric strategy seems crystal clear, especially aimed at countering the U.S.
Very prominent display, yes.
We saw this incredible range of missiles, some really interesting new ones, too, underlining this focus.
Like the Dongfeng 61.
Yeah, the DF-61 carrying multiple warheads, or the Dongfeng 5C ICBM, the intercontinental one. Reports say if they launch that from northern China, it could hit the U.S. mainland.
Significant reach.
And then, of course, the Guam killer, again, the DF-26D. That's an intermediate-range missile specifically designed to hit those really important U.S. bases out in Guam.
A keynote in the Pacific.
Definitely. And beyond those, they showed off hypersonic anti-ship missiles, too. The YJ-17, the YJ-19, these things fly incredibly fast, plus they can maneuver unpredictably.
Making them really hard to shoot down.
Exactly. Even for the best anti-missile systems out there, they're built to evade.
And this focus on missiles, it's really a core part of their strategic thinking. It marks a fundamental shift in how they plan to project power, or maybe counterpower.
How so?
Well, as Mr. Neal explains it, this huge missile force is central to their deterrence strategy. It's specifically designed to counter what they see as America's naval superiority.
The U.S. Navy's carrier groups, right?
Precisely. The U.S. Navy's fleet of carriers, the strike troops, they're unmatched globally. China knows it lags way behind in that kind of traditional power projection.
So missiles are the equalizer.
That seems to be the thinking. And there's even an argument, a provocative one you hear in some Western defense circles, that these massive U.S. carrier groups, because they're such concentrated assets, might actually be vulnerable, like sitting ducks for a sophisticated, coordinated missile barrage.
Wow, sitting ducks. That's a strong term.
It is. So China isn't just boosting deterrence. They're building what's called a second strike capability. The ability to take a hit and still hit back hard. That makes anyone thinking of striking first think twice, or 3 times.
Makes the cost potentially too high.
Exactly. This missile arsenal is their answer, their asymmetric way to level the playing field against U.S. carriers.
And, you know, it wasn't just missiles. We should mention other things, too.
Like what else stood out?
Well, we saw glimpses of things like the LY-1 laser weapon. Analysts suggest that could potentially burn or disable electronics, maybe even blind pilots.
High-tech stuff.
Very. And their 5th-gen stealth fighters, the J-20 and J-35 jets, that shows advances in air power, too.
Okay, so a broad technological push overall, which leads nicely into our third big takeaway. China is really going all the way with artificial intelligence and drones.
That was another major theme, wasn't it?
Absolutely massive. Not just a sideshow. It signals this radical embrace of autonomous systems for warfare. And some of the examples were genuinely unique, really pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, like the AJX-002, this giant submarine drone, an XLUV they call it, extra-large, uncrewed underwater vehicle.
For surveillance, deep underwater.
Could be used for long-range surveillance, reconnaissance, especially in contested seas. Then there was the GJ-11. They're calling it a loyal wingman stealth drone.
Designed to fly with manned aircraft.
Exactly. Alongside a fighter jet, boosting its capabilities, helping out in combat. And we already mentioned the robotic wolves. Experts think they could be used for recon, clearing mines, maybe even hunting enemy soldiers.
That, again, feels like science fiction becoming reality.
It really does, and it was right there on display.
And this isn't just about cool tech. It reflects a deep strategic shift. Dr. Razga points out their strategy not only wants to augment, but replace traditional structures with these autonomous systems.
Replace, not just help.
That seems to be the long-term goal.
Yeah.
And they've clearly learned lessons from conflicts like Ukraine, seeing how just throwing drones at the enemy, using that sheer volume and persistence, can wear down defenses, force changes in tactics.
The attritional aspect.
Yes. And Mr. Neal adds another point. Alacrity in the kill chain matters. Speed is everything. Identifying a target, deciding, acting. Decisions need to happen in nanoseconds to get that crucial advantage. AI is key to that speed.
Makes sense.
What's really striking, though, is China's apparent comfort level with all this. Many countries are still quite hesitant, concerned about deploying AI in their military systems, worried about putting AI in the kill chain.
The ethical debates are huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
But Dr. Raska says China seems very comfortable with it. They're going all the way to integrate it into their systems. This shows a real willingness to push ahead, deploy, and scale up autonomous capabilities, maybe faster and further than others are ready to.
Which suggests a future battlefield that could look very different. Human-machine teaming, maybe even machine-led operations.
It certainly points in that direction, redefining conflict itself.
Okay, so China's innovating fast, deploying advanced tech, often at scale, but, and this is a big but, Does this tech advantage or closing the tech gap automatically mean they're superior in a fight?
Ah, the technology versus operations question.
Right. This brings us to a really critical distinction, maybe one that gets lost sometimes. China might be catching up technologically. They definitely have the resources for a huge arsenal. But how does that stack up against, say, the U.S. in terms of operational capability?
And that's where you see a really stark difference, potentially. It comes down to military culture, operational philosophy.
So,
Well, the U.S. military, as Dr. Raska observes it, tends to excel with more of a bottom-up culture.
yeah.
Units on the ground often have more leeway, more authority to make quick decisions as things change rapidly.
More adaptable on the fly.
Exactly. That decentralization can make them more agile, more responsive in the, chaos of actual combat.
And China.
China operates very differently, much more top-down. Dr. Raska explains that even with impressive gear, their units often will not move a finger until they receive an order from the top.
So potentially less agile.
Potentially much less agile, especially when quick, localized decisions are vital. And Dr. Raska really challenges China's whole deterrence idea here. He says, the Chinese think it's technology that creates deterrence. They believe that will deter the U.S. But at the operational level, he says, there have been instances which show they may not be as good as they say they are.
Like what? Is there an example?
He points to that recent incident in the South China Sea. A Chinese warship confronting the Philippine Coast Guard actually ended up ramming one of its own smaller vessels.
Wow, really? Rammed their own ship.
Apparently so. And that's not just an oops moment. It's a real-world glimpse, potentially, of how theoretical power doesn't always equal flawless execution under pressure. It might highlight gaps in training, coordination, maybe decision-making when things get tense.
That's a really potent example. So for you listening to this, it's a key difference to keep in mind. It's not just about the shiny hardware or the sheer numbers.
Right. Yeah.
It's also about how effectively that power can be wielded, adapted, and controlled in the real world. That adaptable execution can be just as, if not more, important.
Operational edge versus technological parity, perhaps.
Okay. Finally, our fifth takeaway. Let's shift gears a bit beyond just the weapons and look at the bigger picture. The geopolitics, the economics tied to this parade.
The messaging aspect.
Exactly. This wasn't just a military show. It clearly functioned as, well, a global sales pitch. And maybe even more significantly, a very public display of unity among certain powers.
Absolutely. On the sales pitch front, Mr. Neal puts it bluntly. The parade was essentially a giant sales pitch on Chinese arms to potential buyers.
With all those leaders right there watching.
The perfect audience.
Yeah.
Leaders from over 24 countries. A prime chance for Beijing to show off its advanced kit, which is often, let's face it, more affordable than Western alternatives.
And these sales have a dual purpose.
Yes. As Dr. Raska points out, selling weapons is a major way Beijing can extend its influence globally. They already have big customers, like Myanmar, buying huge quantities of Chinese gear. This parade helps solidify those ties and attract new buyers. It's about expanding leverage, presence, influence.
Makes sense. But beyond the deals, maybe the most powerful image was that united front.
The visuals were incredibly deliberate.
Seeing Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un standing front and center with Xi walking together, that sends a message without saying a word, doesn't it?
Unmistakable, and perhaps the most potent message of the whole event. If you zoom out, Mr. Neal reads this as a direct signal to Washington.
What kind of signal?
It suggests America might have to deal with challenges on multiple fronts simultaneously.
Hmm.
He mentions fighting them on several potential theaters at the same time: the Korean Peninsula, Taiwan Straits, and Ukraine.
Spreading U.S. resources then.
Exactly. The implication is a massive strategic stretch. If the U.S. faces serious pressure in all three places at once, its focus and resources would be incredibly strained. There's even the suggestion it may fail in one of those theaters.
A stark warning.
Very much so. This public show of unity isn't just symbolic. It actively promotes this idea of a shifting global order, more multipolar, more challenging to existing alliances, and U.S. dominance. It's a clear statement. We stand together, and we're ready to challenge the status quo.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the big five takeaways for you. First, China's amazing speed and scale in weapons production, but with real questions about integration and actual operational skill.
Production versus execution gap.
Second, that very clear missile-first strategy aims squarely at countering U.S. naval power using asymmetric means. Third, their deep, all-the-way dive into AI and drones, embracing autonomous systems maybe faster than anyone else.
Pushing the technological frontier there.
Fourth, the crucial point that while tech is closing, the U.S. likely still holds an operational edge due to its more agile, bottom-up command culture, contrasting with China's top-down approach.
The software versus the hardware, in a sense.
And fifth, the parade as more than just military might, it was a global arms bazaar and, critically, a powerful projection of a united front with Russia and North Korea, signaling a multi-front challenge to the U.S. So, wrapping it all up, what does this mean for the global power balance and how you might think about international relations now?
Well, this deep dive really underscores how complex that landscape is becoming. It's not just about counting ships or missiles anymore. It's about the strategies behind them, the tech philosophies driving them, and these shifting geopolitical alignments. It forces us all to think about stability in this new era.
How do we manage it?
Exactly. With technology moving so fast and these new power dynamics solidifying, how do nations avoid miscalculation? How do they ensure stability when the stakes, frankly, have never been higher? That's a pressing question these developments leave us with.
It really is. And maybe one final thought for you to mull over. As China keeps innovating at this breakneck speed, pushing these boundaries in tech and strategy, how might our very definition of military superiority change in the years ahead? Could it move beyond just numbers and platforms to things like operational agility, seamless tech integration, maybe even autonomous decision-making in ways we can barely imagine right now?
A profound question indeed. The nature of power itself might be evolving right before our eyes.